Hello and welcome to Diagnostic Radiography in Open Day here at the University of Leicester. So my name's Lana, and then with us this afternoon we also have a second year student, Ifra. So any questions that you have later we can answer between us. So I'm just going to give you some information about the programme, about how to apply, what our course looks like. And then we'll talk a little bit about admission and entry requirements and what the process is. If you have any specific questions about your combination of subjects or skills, you can always ask those questions at the end just before we finish. So radiography at the University of Leicester is relatively new. We only currently have 2 cohorts of students. You will be our 3rd cohort of students, but as a university and as a school of healthcare, we've been around for a long time now. We are highly recognised in lots of university level awards, and our students have lots of good things to say about us. So focusing on diagnostic radiography specifically, our programme is a 3-year full-time programme. Now, when we say full-time, it is a longer programme than a traditional university course. So you do get slightly shorter holidays, and we do have higher attendance requirements. So we do have a 100% attendance requirement during the placement elements of the programme, and any time that is missed does have to be made up just so that you are eligible for registration upon graduation. So our programme is approved by both the Healthcare Professions Council, the HCPC, who are essentially the people who give us our licences to practice once we qualify. So graduation from this programme doesn't guarantee you a place with the HCPC, it makes you eligible to apply for registration with the HCPC. We are also accredited by the College of Radiographers, which again welcomes you to join student membership of the Society of Radiographers. We have a dedicated X-ray training room and dedicated simulation software, and that just helps you to practice your skills before you start your first placement with real patients. Our year 2, we focus on what we call cross-sectional imaging, which is CT and MRI. So year 1, we tend to look at X-ray, and then year 2, we move across to CT and MRI. Our teaching is supported by the dissection room. Now, the dissection room is observational. You won't be given anything to prosect. All of that work has been done. It just really helps to cement kind of what anatomy looks like in a textbook to what anatomy looks like in real life. And then whilst all of our modules are compulsory, in year 3, we do give you an element of choice as to what kind of pathway you might want to start thinking about your career taking. So the way that we taught is in a variety of ways. So we teach via both academic staff and current clinical staff will come and do some teaching with you. We will do teaching which is kind of more discussion based. At university, it tends to be that we give you the materials in advance of the lecture, and then you come to the teaching session with questions and prepared to answer questions, and teaching is much more kind of conversational as opposed to somebody just reading slides like I am doing now. We've spread our assessments throughout the year so that they're not all just lumped at January and summer, and we've tried to make our assessments as authentic as possible. So it's not just all exams, it's not just all essays. It might be some group work, it might be narrating a PowerPoint in a very similar way to I'm doing now. And then patients or service users play an active role in your teaching and feedback. We work regularly with service users so that we understand what the needs of the people who use our service are and what they want from our students. So as I mentioned, we have our own dedicated X-ray room. And this just allows you to get to grips with the technology before we go into placement. So knowing which button to press when, and then you can really focus on your patient interaction rather than being worried about, oh, I can't remember which button it is. We do all of that in practice before you go on to placement, so that once you're on placement, you can really focus on your patient skills. The university also have an option to loan technology. So if you have an issue and your laptop breaks or you need something on an iPad, we can loan you that technology that then you return once you have finished your studies. Now, it's really important that you recognise that as radiographers, our job is not to make a diagnosis. We don't tell patients the findings on their images. We are responsible for generating the highest quality images so that they can be passed on and a diagnosis can be made. It is not our job to make the diagnosis. So as you progress through your studies are split into modules, and we study 6 modules per year. Each year you will study 2 clinical modules and 4 academic modules. So in year 1, the academic modules focus on the science and technology of the X-rays. So how an X-ray is made, how an X-ray tube looks, what happens when those X-rays interact with matter. In the anatomy module, we focus on the skeletal and muscles, so you'll get to know the names of all of the bones of the skeleton, how all of the bones are joined to each other. And then in the theory of radiographic practice module, you get to understand how we take each of the imaging, which projections we use. I'm hoping that you recognise that the X-ray on the screen is a chest X-ray, but we will teach you how to assess that X-ray and determine whether it's a good quality X-ray or it isn't. And then we have a professionalism module where we teach you the legislation that we work under, what it means to be a professional, how we communicate, how we adapt our communication skills so that we can work with all members of the public. As I said, in year 2, we focus on CT and MRI. So we will teach you what anatomy looks like in cross-section. So you can see there's a CT of a chest abdomen scrolling on the screen. So we'll teach you to identify the kidneys, the vertebra, the ribs, the liver, pancreas, all of those parts of the body that you'll need to see in cross-section. We start to introduce what pathologies are associated with each of those systems. And then we also have a second professional module, and that's where we start to look at the wider healthcare and health strategy and how health strategy impacts what we do. And then in science and technology, you learn how MRIs are made. MRIs are different to CTs in that MRIs don't use radiation, they use magnets. And so we get different levels of detail depending on what technology we've used to scan the patient. And then in year 3, we'll look at advancing clinical practice. So we focus on things that are cutting edge. So things like the role of AI in radiology and what that means for us as radiographers. You'll have a leadership and mentoring module so that you're starting to think about those next career steps. We do a research methods module, and that's basically your dissertation module where you choose a topic that you are interested in and then you go on and produce work on that topic. And then, as I mentioned earlier, we have the speciality pathway. So you choose either MSK or oncology, and then you start to take your career in any of those directions. So that's what the programme as a whole kind of looks like. And then alongside that, as I say, each year you have 2 clinical modules. So we're going to focus on what those clinical modules look like. So at the moment, this is the list of all of the hospitals that we currently have partnership agreements with. Each of these hospitals are accessible from the university in under an hour on public transport. And then we also have a fleet of hire cars that if you're able to drive, the university can loan you a hire car for the week. So let's say Melton Mowbray, for instance, is probably the trickiest of the hospitals to get to. So you can either book a hire car and have a hire car for that week, or you are allowed to book second accommodation for the week. So you could choose to stay in accommodation in Melton Mowbray and then reclaim that costs back. Now, it's really important that you understand that if you choose this university, you are choosing all of these hospitals. You will go to all of these hospitals at some point during your training, and that's really important to understand. This is what they look like on a map. So as you can see, Leicester is there in the centre, and then they basically circle Leicester. We are always looking to expand our clinical placements, so please do regularly check our website, because we are currently in conversation with Peterborough and Northampton and a specialist centre in Sheffield and Corby, so we do add to those placements. Now, when you're thinking about whether to move into accommodation or stay living at home and commute to placement, it's important to understand that we do work across the 24/7 working week of the NHS. So whilst you're on placement blocks, we ask you to do 30 hours per week, but those 30 hours could be anywhere across the week. So you could do 3 12-hour shifts, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and that's your week done. Or you could do 4 days, 9 to 5, Monday to Thursday, and you're off on Friday. So when you're thinking about choosing where to live, it's really important to think about access outside of the normal 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. Can you get to those hospital placement sites on a Sunday morning, for example? So at the end of year 2, you get an opportunity to source your own elective placement. Throughout the degree, the university finds your placements, allocate you to placements, tell you where to go. This is your opportunity to find somewhere that you either potentially want to work in the future, or it can be an overseas opportunity, as long as they will agree to accommodate you and you can fund getting yourself there. There is that opportunity for you to look at international and national placements. So where can your career in radiography take you? So once you've got your undergraduate degree gives you the foundations to work in CT, X-ray and MRI. We'll give you an introduction to mammography and nuclear medicine and ultrasound. If you do want to specialise in ultrasound, that is a second MSc, so you would have to do further studies. And then if you wanted to stay in radiography and do further advanced or consultant practice, the opportunity to do MScs and PhDs is there, and you might want to become a reporting radiographer, or you might choose to specialise in paediatric imaging or interventional imaging or forensics, or you might want to look a little bit wider and move into veterinary radiography or research radiography. You might want to join us in a university and become an academic and teach. You might want to go off and work for the companies who make the X-ray equipment and look at becoming a representative for those companies. So you've got lots of career scope. Throughout your studies, you are supported by the University of Leicester Careers Service. They will support you with writing job applications, CVs. We do an interview as part of your assessment strategy in year 3. And as a graduate of the University of Leicester, you have lifetime access to the Careers Service. So even when you're thinking about those next steps, you can come back to the university and access those support services. So in terms of applications, all of our applications are via UCAS. There's no direct application. Our course code is B821 and our institution code is L34. We do accept deferred entry. So if you wanted to look at applying now but deferring for 2026, we do that. What we ask is in your application that your personal statement shows an interest in radiography and that you understand what radiography is. And then once we receive your application, as long as your chosen subjects, predicted grades and personal statement are screened, and then you may be invited to interview. For the 2025 cohort, interviews are online. If you're looking for 2026, they may move to in-person interviews. If you are then successful and offered a place to study with us, that place is conditional still on occupational health clearance, which does include your vaccination status. We do require that all students undertake the recommended vaccines for healthcare students following government guidance. And then we also have to get a kind of background check by the police service. So we do a DBS check, and that's just to make sure that you've got no criminal convictions or anything like that. If you do have, we ask that you disclose them and we have a conversation about what your conviction is and whether there's any extra steps that we need to put in place. I would always recommend some kind of work experience in a hospital, ideally, just so that you know what working in such a fast-paced environment is. But anything that you've worked with people will teach you skills that you can bring. So if you've got any course-specific questions, you can contact us on radiography@leicester.ac.uk. That's an email address, and somebody from the course will come back to you. If you have anything specific about admissions and whether your qualifications or predicted grades or things like that, then that's the email address to contact our admissions team directly. We do accept a whole combination of qualifications. It's not just A levels. We do accept BTECs and T levels and mature students and things like that. And then similarly, if you want to see what we get up to and see what some of our students get up to, we do have Instagram for University of Leicester in general, and then we have the School of Healthcare and the radiography specific Instagram accounts that you can kind of have a snoop around and see what kind of things we get up to before you join us. So thank you very much for listening. That's all of the information I have for you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop sharing these slides and then hopefully I'll reappear on your screens. And then if you do have any questions, either myself or Ifra will try to answer those for you.
It doesn't seem that anyone's put a question in the chat, so I will go ahead and ask one that I have written down that might be useful to some of our attendees, if you can answer, Lana or Ifra. So when students are doing placements, how many hours are they expected to work, for example, in a given week?
So placement weeks are 30 hours per week. So the shift patterns that we do tend to be kind of 8:30 till 5, or you might do 8 AM till 8 PM, but then you'd only do 3 days a week. We might do even things like a 4 PM till midnight shift. As you progress into years 2 and years 3, we start to do night shifts. And that's just so that once you graduate, you're fully aware of all of the shift patterns. Being in the hospital at midnight on a Tuesday is very different to being in the hospital at lunchtime on a Tuesday. And we just need to make sure that you're prepared for what all of that might look like. So you will work a variety of shift patterns. You will never work more than 30 hours per week. However, all of your placement hours are mandatory. So any days that you do miss, you will have to make up over the summer holidays.
Okay, so I've gone ahead and published that question, but someone has asked, I've heard that the medicine course allows you to be able to do a healthcare course to become a healthcare assistant. Is this the same for the radiography course also?
No, it isn't. So the healthcare qualification is part of the medical degree. So they're a 5-year degree and then they do the healthcare qualification. I want to say it's in year 2 before they start going out onto placement in year 3. Because we go straight out into placement in year 1, we don't have the scope to do the healthcare assistant first. So no, you will not be a healthcare assistant as part of this course.
Okay, that was a good question. Does anyone have any questions for maybe for Ifra, the student that we've got on the session as well? This one says, are there any chances for learning abroad within the course?
So we don't do an exchange program, but as I mentioned, we do have that elective window. So if you wanted to go on a placement overseas, we can support you to do that. We work with charities. There are some established charities. We can help you apply for funding and things like that, but we don't have like a gap year or a sandwich year or do an exchange program or anything like that. We just have this 3 weeks window in which you can source a placement anywhere in the world that you want to.
Great, and we are getting some more questions in here. So Dylan has asked, hi, how many places are there each year?
Very good question. So there are only 30 placements, 30 students accepted onto the course. And just for some context, last year we had 750 applicants for those 30 places. So it is really competitive.
Got one more question. This person says, hi, I was wondering if there are any scholarships for students taking this course.
So all of the scholarships that the university offer are on the university website. We don't have any radiography specific scholarships, but the university does offer scholarships. So I would say have a look at the university website. All of the information on scholarships and bursaries and additional funding and things are there. As healthcare students, you are all entitled to apply for the NHS Learning Support Fund. The NHS Learning Support Fund is up to £6,000 of money that you get to support you during your studies that you don't pay back. And then through the Travel and Dual Accommodation Expenses Fund, any travel or accommodation, as the name says, expenses that you incur during the course, you can reclaim that money back. So you do kind of have to spend it and reclaim it back, but you do get the money back. And then what we usually recommend is that students kind of allocate the Learning Support Fund money to help them budget for going to placement.
Great, so we've got a couple more questions now, so people are really flooding them in. The next one is there still a chance to be accepted even if you don't have any work experience?
Yeah, so we know that work experience is really hard to get. We know that being under 18 in radiology is a huge hurdle. So what we say is try and get some work experience, even if it's on a ward in a hospital, even if it's in the hospital cafe, just so that you're used to being around people. But even if you've got a part-time job in a pub or in Subway, or, you know, if you can handle Primark on a Saturday afternoon, you can handle the NHS. So yeah, it doesn't have to be radiography specific. Just get something that you can grow those transferable skills that you can then tell us how you've learned those and how you would apply them.
Great, and the last question that we have is, do you have any advice for interviews?
What I would say is know why you want to study radiography. We get lots of students that just say, oh, I think it's really interesting. Okay, but what about it is interesting? What about radiography did you think was interesting? Which part of it? So just telling me that you think it's interesting, I'm going to say, what about it is interesting? What made you find it interesting? I would say we don't ask you radiography specific questions, so we'd never show you an x-ray and ask you to tell us anything about an x-ray. It's more about people skills, the soft skills, kind of how you manage your time, how you deal with conflict, how you're going to handle and plan a 12-hour shift, and what kind of things you're going to do to prepare yourself for the challenges of a radiography programme. So yeah, don't worry that we're going to start asking you questions about x-rays or CTs. We're not going to do that. We want to know why you want to be a radiographer, that you understand what radiography is and that we are not radiologists, and then why you want to study in Leicester. Those kind of questions. It's not anything too challenging. Ifra, would you have any advice for interview prep?
I think for interviews, it's always a good idea to look at Leicester's specific course, radiography, because it is quite different to other radiography courses. So if you can maybe have an answer as to what you like about this course, I think that's always good because it shows that you've kind of done your research and that you are interested. But yeah, apart from that, I think just be yourself, do research, I know why you want to be in this career opposed to other healthcare careers. And yeah, but the interview really isn't that too difficult. I think just make sure that you know your stuff and that, you know, you be yourself and you understand what actually the career is and why you want to be in it.
Do we have any more questions?
I can't see any. I think we've answered all of the people's questions. Yeah, I haven't seen any new ones, so I think I'm going to say it's safe to assume no one's got any more questions, and I think we've covered everything that people might have asked. So if everyone's happy, we'll go ahead and draw this session to a close. I think it's been really great. Thanks again to Lana for your presentation. And if anyone has any questions, like Lana said, she shared the email addresses. And you can contact us. Our website also has a live chat as well, where you can speak to admissions specialists as well. So any questions, just drop us a line. Otherwise, we'll draw the session to a close. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Ifra, as well, for coming along.
Thank you.
Bye.
Oh, I think a question's just quickly come in.
Oh, has it? Oh, no. Oh, this is an interesting one. Can I apply as a high school junior? I feel like that's a...
So no, you have to be a minimum of 18 before you start your clinical placements. So you could potentially apply and defer if you've taken your A-levels early and things like that, but you couldn't actually go into the placement until you turn 18. That's a legal requirement because we work with radiation.
I'm hesitant now.
I know, yeah. I'm like, every time we say we're going to go, somebody joins. So there's a question.
Someone ask a question. Okay. All right. I think we'll call it there. Again, if you have any questions, lots of places you can send them to, and we'll be happy to answer them after the session. But again, thank you, Lana, and thank you, everyone, and have a fantastic evening.
Oh, question.
Oh, question. Oh, this is a good question as well. This is really good. Glad we caught this one. So someone has asked, what makes Leicester's course different to other courses?
So because our course is new, we're only 2 years established, we are able to focus our second year completely on cross-sectional imaging. So most other universities kind of might touch on cross-sectional imaging, or it might be part of another module. For us, our whole second year is based on cross-sectional imaging. We are currently only the second university in the UK to have a specific MRI simulation package. So there's only one other university that offers that in the UK. We are very rare in that all of our placements are currently local. A lot of other universities, you are looking at secondary accommodation. Placement sites can be up to 3 hours away. So we're very fortunate in that we have that. I think we're the only university that offer hire car schemes to students to help support those travel journeys. We have student voice on all of our institutional committees, so the EDI committee, the marketing committee, the placements committee. Student voice is really at the core of everything we do here at the University of Leicester, and university students always report feeling like they're well listened to and they understand how their voice impacts the teaching that we deliver here. Okay, are there any final questions?
All right, I think it's safe to say. I think we've got all of our questions out now. All right, guys, thanks so much again.
Thank you, bye.
Bye.